Okay, I've been promising this for a while now, and people have been hounding me to do it. They want to see my network. You want to see my network. I'm nowhere near ready yet, but let's do this anyways, just to, well, get it over with. First thing is first, we're still under construction, so the EPO system here does not yet work. Second off, beautiful new wooden racking to store all of my equipment in. 2x4s, 2x4s, 4x4s. And over here, because we can't actually go behind the racks, convenient little access panels so I can look into the back of my racks or use my fire extinguisher if so necessary. And as for this, yeah, won't talk about that. Right. So what are you looking at here for the network and my servers? Well, this is ground zero. This is CelNet. This is everything. Or at least I'm making an attempt to be everything. Right, so network itself. Woo, go over here. Fantastic, whoops, glare, that's what we get. Fantastic TELUS fiber optic modem into a horrible TELUS router and a satellite modem, which is currently not running, and this mess of cables here, which is currently the transitioning point to the new network, which I've already screwed up. This here is supposed to be a 48 port gigabit switch. It is not. These 6 ports over here are gigabit, the rest are 10100s. Okay, so that's going to be removed. We'll take care of that. And where do all those network lines go? Well, they go everywhere. And this lens is dirty, so I'm sorry if it looks like there's dust and everything all over it. But again, I'm not ready to make this video. Fiber optic here. This serves... Oh, crap. I think I needed that. Those fiber optic lines run along here and run to fiber optic transceivers here. And these transceivers here connect to my Silicon Graphics Onyx and Silicon Graphics Iris Crimson. We have another fiber optic line which connects to the Origin 2000, which ate its power supply, so it's currently dead. And then we have 2 gigabit cards installed in these 2 Origin 200s directly above that. First machine here, Paw Risk Department. This is the HP 9000, what is this, the 510 or 520 series? D350 series. Right, haven't really messed with this thing, but it has this beautifully impressive UPS here, which you've probably already seen a small video about. Eventually, we'll try and power everything about in here with that. In the meantime, however, the base network system has this UPS here, which is hung off the ceiling. Directly above the Paw Risk is its disk array, which is currently missing all of its disks. They're high voltage differential. I don't have that many. And above that is the remote terminal controller for an AS400 connection, and there's its special modem sitting up there. Was using it for testing purposes, is currently disconnected. And we have our clock up here, which currently does not have anything to convert a satellite signal or anything like that to an iRig timecode, which is what this wants, or some form of 10 megahertz timecode. I got no way to generate for that. Working on that. Bottom. So here we are. The 3583. There it is. IBM 3583 tape library. This little thing right here, if you can see it, yes you can. This here is our web server, which is currently not running. This up here is our ProLiant DL580. This is a quad netburst Pentium, Intel Xeon machine. And the only thing that's special about this is that it uses the physical address extension to give me, in this case, 16 gigabytes of RAM in a 32-bit environment. So it's currently being allocated for gaming servers and media servers locally here in the network. And then we have this fantastic little thing right here, which is my pull-out console. And it's currently connected to one of the machines in the rack, which we'll get into in a moment here. But that just slides away in there. And then we have these 2 compact StorageWorks disk arrays, which are connected to the DL580. And then we have our KVM switch here, which is currently 8 machines connected to it. Above that is our file servers. We've gone over this before. This here is the 220, which is doing all of my file storage and FTP services right now. We support NFS, as well as we support AppleTalk. Over in the legacy department, we have the Apple Workgroup server over here. Why is this so bright? Hold on a second. Wait, yes, automatic iris is turned off. There we go, much better. Workgroup server 95 with its 2GB, 4GB DDS drive, which in my case is totally useless. And in fact, the whole machine right now is currently useless because I have no way to connect it to the Belkin KVM switch. Now there is the OmniView Mac adapter, which is a fancy little adapter which converts ADB to PS2 and also does pin conversion from DB15 to the HD15 VGA connector that we've all come to use. These are almost unobtainium, and when they do show up, people want several $100. Now I understand Big Mess of Wires just recently made a converter that does the exact same thing, but he wants a stupid amount, and well, screw Big Mess of Wires. And I guarantee you that one statement I just said is going to cause a lot of controversy. Anyways, so this here will allow me to net boot Apple IIs, gives me physical local talk networking, as well as it synchronizes to the main file server. Directly above that is my first submission to virtualization and emulation. This IBM X3650 here is my first 64-bit server, truly, and it's simply going to be running virtual machines. However, currently, right now, with that exclamation, with a bad power supply, it is currently doing nothing. And by the way, it currently has no drives. But yes, so this here will eventually be running a bunch of virtual machines for systems I really can't be, well, bothered to run the physical hardware for, either because it's so big or because I just have such a little use for it. It might be better to consolidate it into one machine. However, this will eventually run OpenGenera, and that means I can work with Symbolics hardware, or at least I'll have some sort of networked system which is running in a Symbolics network, which we call CelNet. But I haven't played with that too much yet. And over here we have the Microvax 2000, and behind this door here we have, besides the password, just a single hard drive. And this is my VMS solution. I know a couple people with VAX 11750s, but look at my floor space. I have absolutely no space anymore to put a VAX 11750. So a Microvax 2000 will be easier on my, well, floor space and my pocketbook when it comes to the power consumption. And then we have this here, which is my network connected PDP-1123 Plus. It has a Delcoit Ethernet adapter in it and is supposed to be running RT11. And we'll be doing some extra work on that in the next couple of days, because below that we have these two cipher tape drives, and below that they are connected to this PDP-1184. And this machine here is actually currently running, but I have no serial connection for it. And actually, if you notice, buried just behind there is this WISE embedded terminal, and what that's going to be doing is that I'm missing a bezel piece right here that I'm making. And over here is just going to be a bunch of DB9 ports as a patch panel. And all these devices which have serial ports on them for consoles will route over to here. And I can patch between them, and from this embedded console through this pullout console in the KVM, I can then access the serial consoles for them locally. So currently it's down. And below that I have this weird little Aspect branded acrylic case. This is being removed here because I'm no longer going to have a Unibus / Q-Bus expansion cabinet. I'm getting a DEC RL02, which is going to slide in here. It's probably going to drop these devices down, and that means up here I'm going to have a Pi DP8i fit in here. So I'll have some sort of cool front panel experience with there, even though it's going to be based off of something like the Raspberry Pi. And here's our troublesome R882s at the bottom. And then, because I cannot put an extra rack unit here, because I'm so close to the electrical equipment, we have my Sun Enterprise 3000. You may remember this YouTube video from very, very, very long ago, where it spins really well on its wheels. I've taken the wheels off and slid it into this little tiny spot here, which gives me a modest amount of ventilation for it, but it just kind of currently lives here. And this runs all of my Solaris work. I have it set for net booting, so it'll boot stuff like, say, the Sunray 1 or my older X-Terminal ones. And above that, connected to the PDP-1184, is the documentation card reader. And I have some stuff stored back there. And this weird little piece of plywood here is actually covering the back of my ventilation here, because what's actually happening here is that air is pulled in through the front of these racks. And over here, there's a set of fans which push air through the back of the wall to its crawl space to where an old fireplace is in the other room. And then that pushes the hot air up and out through the chimney. Or, the other plan before the winter gets here is that up here, we are right next to the cold air intake for the furnace. So with one duct fan or a slider or some sort of little gate, during the winter, I can have it so that the hot air generated within this cabinet is actually pulled into our furnace, which is hiding here in the other room. And instead of me having to already heat the house and have so much exhaust heat going outside, it's actually being used by the furnace, and I'm saving energy. And I'm going to have to save a lot of energy because this whole room is powered by this ridiculous configuration here, which goes into this meter, so I know exactly how much I'm using in power consumption. And when I first started, these were all zero several years ago. It goes through this here, which contains 2 current transformers. And these here give me an idea on both sides of the phase, how much current I'm using, because I don't want to cause an imbalance, or it'll throw the breaker and kill everything. Directly above that is the main power distribution panel. This one goes out to the other room to control my stereo. This one goes to my desk and workbench. This one here, which is a 20 amp 240 volt breaker, powers all of that cabinet and rack. This is half of what I should be running in here. You cannot run all of my equipment without popping this breaker, and for good reason. I'm not willing to risk the integrity of the house or its electrical wiring just by running old computers. But what do we get for networking services here? Well, I've already mentioned that you can net boot Sun machines, we can net boot SGIs, we can net boot older Apples like the Apple II, and I believe, yeah, the 2E, the 2GS and all that. We have NFS services, we have Apple Talk services. I'm able to service almost any different type of computer in any variety of networking protocols. This includes XNA recently, thanks to the Control Alto emulation system. And we do also have with us a networked printer, which is hiding in the other room. Ah, the glorious HP LaserJet 4M Plus. This one here is currently fitted with an envelope feeder. Unfortunately, I don't have a duplexer for this. I really do wish I had a duplexer for it, though, because I have just about every other option for it. And speaking of options, yes, I do also have font cartridges for it. In this case here, I have the Great Start, the Pro Collection, and, well, the PostScript cartridge, which I really don't need for this, but that's because it's not PostScript in here. This is the Persuasive Presentations cartridge. And over here, plugged into the machine right now, are custom fonts. This one here is actually just a board with some EEPROMs with custom fonts loaded onto it. In this case, it's a bunch of barcodes. And then we have the measly little inkjet thing, just in case I want to do something in color. But we will eventually replace that with a color laser printer. Now, with all of this networking stuff in the house here, it does actually generate a rather... Where the heck is it behind this lighting? Ah, here we go. A rather absurd amount of cabling. Just networking-wise, there's so much network cable that runs just in this area alone to all of this stuff. And it's slowly getting reorganized. Otherwise, I've gone through about a spool worth of wire just doing this whole house and my old apartment when I lived in Vancouver, and it's a complete nightmare. What would I do without a crimp set? But anyways, why is the CelNet domain registered, but at the same time, nothing's hosted through it? I mean, you should be seeing my file hosting, my FTP server, and a whole bunch of other things. Well, congratulations. Even though I have synchronous 40/40 fiber optic internet, all of my regular ports are blocked. Now, I could go through a VPN, or I could have something to port redirect, but that means all my bandwidth goes through it. And when you're hosting your own stuff, that means you're going to be transferring a lot of data through it. When you want to have high bandwidth rentals for VPNs, things get pretty expensive. Now, of course, TELUS does offer to unblock these ports, like, say, port 80, port 21, and those things, but I'm currently only paying, what, $55 a month for this. Yeah, let's pay an extra $40, $50, I think it's like $120 for the business class internet connection, which is the exact same connection, 4040, just the port's unblocked. Ugh. Anyways, yes, I do apologize. This is a very informal video that's a complete and utter mess right now with cables hanging down, systems not running, and otherwise just hardware that refuses to turn on when you want it to. But yeah, people were asking, they demanded it, and I did deliver.